Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Untangled podcast, episode number 15, if anybody's keeping track, because I know Han and we certainly are, right? How are you doing, Han?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, you don't have to keep track. It's probably right there in the doobly-doo. You can see that it's hashtag
I
15.
actually don't number them because I feel like people then
Oh,
feel compelled to watch all of them.
is that not a good thing?
Yes, but it is also intimidating, is what I
Yeah,
think.
that is true. That is true. All right, I get your point, but I still think you should label them.
Maybe
Let's
we'll see.
talk about that. We
Hey,
should.
but talking about intimidating people, we have a guest today who has been mentioned in many criminal capacities on this podcast before. Kevin, introduce yourself.
Wait, criminal capacities? What is this? All right. Well, my name is Kevin. I'm an accountant from Canada. I work in the finance industry, and I'm wondering if that is that is the context for these criminal allegations. All I'm gonna say is I'm trying to get my certified public accountant certification very soon. So hopefully my name is not being dragged through the mud too much here.
No, we won't use your name in the same sentence as the word embezzlement.
Yes. I mean,
We'll
now
try
that
to avoid doing that.
I think we've already done that, right? If you want to see context of that, our podcast on what was his name again, Han?
Oh, DB
DB
Doo.
Cooper. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I've heard. All I'm gonna say in response to that is that we don't like to use the word tax evasion in our industry. We like to use the word tax planning. It's all about finding efficiencies in the legal sense.
Right. It's that I find that I mean I feel like that way of approaching it kind of exemplifies the practice altogether, right? It's not about saying what it actually is. It's just like kind of finding your way through the network to make it sound better and make it kind of work.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you have any other comments or concerns, I would like to refer to my lawyer. Thank you very much.
I study. Yeah, I have a bachelor's in philosophy, by the way. So and Simon does too. So ethics. How
There
about
you
that?
go. There you go. There you go.
We are the review commission for that.
Yes, we
So,
are reviewing your conduct.
Oh no.
Oh no, damn! Not those guys. They're such
Those pesky ethics people.
uh,
trying to talk to me about bad stuff and me being a bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I'm gonna go back to clubbing seals this afternoon. Damn it.
talking about North American stereotypes or tropes. What's your opinion on America, Kevin?
America, yeah, like the United States. It's an interesting country. I like it. It's quite diverse. I go there every now and then. You know, I feel like it gets a bit of a bad rap. People are very nice there.
Fair enough. What about American presidents?
They're quite a mixed bag. Let's just say the near current history of the office hasn't really been that stellar, but it is what it is.
Any historical standouts from your point of view? I'm trying to warm you up for our topic of conversation today.
Oh,
So
oh
I don't know
no.
if you know where we're going yet.
Oh, I think I do know where we're going with this. Any historical standouts? Well, I mean the previous president, a reality TV star, was certainly a standout. There were a few assassinations. One had polio and ran for 4 terms, and the one resigned and would have gotten impeached if he hadn't. So there's it's been a storied office.
What do you think, on? And any strong emotions on the chair of the president?
Well, I mean, I kind of know where we're going with this, but I'm also just going to mention the fact that some of them were just pretty cool. And that I didn't like their policies, but they got shot and kind of dealt with it like badasses. I was thinking about that recently. There's this one clip of Ronald Reagan. I think he got shot once before he was president, like president elect or something. And then he's in a room and a balloon pops off somewhere, and he just coldly looks up and says, "Missed me." That is pretty fucking cold.
I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that got shot, and he literally
Yes.
continued his speech with like the bullet
For-
still like lodged in
in
him.
him. So the story from that one is because that one's pretty cool as well. Is that he got shot like right as he was walking up to the stage to give his speech, but because he was a pretty seasoned hunter, he kind of instantly could tell that the wound was non-fatal and that he was going to be fine if he went to the hospital. So what he did I think he said something along the lines of, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose," which was his moniker.
That was
and then he gave
says
a speech,
as he's limping out of his wheelchair.
That's a badass line, I gotta say.
Exactly, and also I think that speech lasted for 60 minutes.
Oh yeah, they were a fan.
That
They
was
were
a
fans of
long-ass
long-winded
speech.
speeches back in the day.
Yeah. See, my follow-up question on this, and I've been told this is a terrible idea, and was do you think you could ever assassinate a president? And should we debate the validity of the question before we try to answer it?
I feel like
all
this
right.
is a loaded question. Are we gonna put this on Google?
I mean, this totally won't get us all on the list, but
Have you been Googling this, Simon?
No, this is why I'm saying we should debate the validity of asking this question first.
all right. Well, I mean, first of all, we should be debating. I mean, you two are philosophers. I feel like you two should be debating this more. Should we be assassinating presidents? Because
See, I'm in the action of do and ask for forgiveness later, but
okay.
Oh my god.
All right, let's not bring Simon around any world leaders that we may be talking to.
Or if we do, I don't want to be seen with the guy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be associated with the guy. The FBI might be at my door asking me some interesting questions soon enough. I think it's much harder now. I feel like all these presidents and these people have like way more security than they let on. I think with technology, the Secret Service and stuff have only gotten more sophisticated.
yeah.
It was way easier back in the day. Back in the good old days.
Yeah, and especially the type of surveillance and all that kind of stuff going on. Like, I mean, even when Obama became president, there were so many plots that were foiled during his time in office. I remember there was one where these guys tried to take this dump truck full of fertilizer to make it into a huge bomb, but the Secret Service were on them for like 3 weeks before the plot, and they were just like, let's just gather more and more incriminating evidence. They're not going to do anything. So,
I mean, lest we lose the relevant elephant in the room right now is the fact that the Japanese prime minister got shot not too long ago. That is just the difference, because that's the way that doesn't happen in the US anymore. Like an American president isn't just going to walk out into a street and somebody's going to come up with a gun, because honestly that's kind of insane. That wouldn't happen there.
yeah. And just I think just on the Japanese side, their Secret Service or protective custody, it just looks terrible on them, because even their response, watching some of the videos of the aftermath, was horrendous.
I mean, like, Japan isn't really known for like people just having guns, right? Like that's why in the U.S. the security is so buffed up, because anyone could have a gun. Whereas in Japan, like, I'm pretty sure it's illegal for civilians to own firearms, is it?
He built a gun.
Yeah, he built one. That's crazy. He couldn't even get one legally. He had to build one himself.
No, I mean, like, not a lot of countries you can, like, developed countries, you can actually buy a gun. That's not the U.S.
Yeah, we can buy guns in Canada. It's just that.
Really?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. My coworker, he owns guns. He's a legal gun owner.
Oh. I guess the America's leaking northwards.
Well,
but it always was.
We should stop a bit of our rambling and get to the topic of choice here. Kevin, have you guessed yet what our main conspiracies that we'll be talking about today, delving into?
An assassination of a certain president in the 1960s, I'm guessing. A certain JFK, perhaps?
I think you are correct.
There you go.
Yes, looking today.
There you go.
JFK.
There it is.
Oh, wow. You are right. I do like this topic.
I promise you, we saved you a good one. So
there you go.
The way we're going to structure this episode is I'm going to go through the details of the case. We'll go over a bit of the things which are, the thing of the big red flags, and then we'll go over all the suspects, and we'll see if any of them really stand out. But just, to tell people some of your biases and where you stand, what do you know about JFK? What do you think happened?
All right, well, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to, like, presidents and history like this. So he was a Democrat elected in 1961. He was like a very until Joe Biden, he was the only Catholic president ever, and he was like seen as like a bit of a young progressive reformer after Eisenhower, who obviously was the complete opposite of that. And yeah, but in private, in his private life, he was very interesting. I think he had a lot of mistresses. He had a very complicated private life, but his family is kind of, and still kind of is, like a political dynasty in the state of Massachusetts as well. And they've always been very influential on in the Democratic Party in America. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, even in terms of policies, if I was asked as a child who my favorite president would have been, I would have probably pointed towards JFK, just because I had this obsession of space exploration and stuff like that.
He was the one that like really started the space race. He was the one that said that before the end of the decade we'll put a man on the moon, and turns out they did. And he said that in 1961, I believe, and they put the Neil Armstrong landed on the moon in 69.
Allegedly, but yes.
Allegedly. All right, that's content for another episode right there.
Absolutely.
But also, I think just beyond just those policies, he was also fairly progressive in terms of, I think, like race relations.
He had to be, because it was the time when this was the time of Malcolm X and just the civil rights movement at the time. Like, this was a big deal. He had to respond to it as well, and I think it was a pretty big problem for him to deal with, from what I've seen from some documentaries. That because obviously it wasn't very popular to white America to like actually do anything about the civil rights issue, because there was just a lot of indentured racism there. So
and that's a good thing to mention now, because it's kind of brings us to where he was in 1963 in November, because he was traveling to Dallas to address some of the own tensions within the political parties, some of which were stemming from views on race relations. So to give a really brief synopsis of the entire case, JFK traveled to Dallas, got shot in the head and died, and people are like, who the hell shot him? So
good, very good.
Yeah, that's a very
nice,
to the point,
nice,
sweet and simple synopsis.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask, before we get into it, just really quickly, who do you think did shoot JFK? And did you think it is a conspiracy? And how much can it change your mind?
I think there definitely is a lot of things about this case that kind of just make no sense. Like, the official, quote-unquote, explanation seems to be that, I mean, the obvious person everyone knows, Lee Harvey Oswald, right? He was the one that was convicted of shooting JFK, and, like, but the problem was, like, there wasn't really ever any, like, was there ever any motive, official motive?
We'll get into it.
Just explain. I don't think there was. And, like, and people, and you're asking me to believe that just a single person just, you know, on a regular day just shot the president of the United States, you know, for the funsies? I don't buy it. There's definitely more to this case that hasn't been revealed yet, I think.
And do you have any hints at who might have shot JFK? Anything you heard for your forays into more darker internet forums?
Darker internet forums.
It was Nikita Khrushchev with a missile.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the usual answer is always just the CIA, right? The CIA like wanted to kill JFK, but I don't know why they would. Well, I mean,
we'll get into it.
There were some reasons why, but.
What about you, Han? Did you hear anything about JFK, about his assassination?
Well, I heard he had a absolute banger of a campaign song. It's really catchy. I don't know if you heard it.
I have not, actually.
Well, just go look it up. Anyone who's listening right now, look up that track and tell me that that's not a banger, because that is just... Anyway, aside from that, I think we already covered most of the basics here. Cuban Missile Crisis, height of the Cold War. Just an overall iconic president in the history of the U.S. And the fact that he got shot kind of cemented that status as historical legend, I suppose. As to who killed him, honestly, I don't know anymore. Like, there's a lot of possibilities, and I think it could also just be like a random guy just decides to get up and shoot the president, because that's happened quite a lot of times, actually. A lot of presidents got shot by random people just deciding to make a splash. I mean, John Lennon got shot for the same reason, so why wouldn't you shoot Kennedy?
Fair enough, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions, which I'm sure you'll provide plenty.
Yeah. Well, I guess without much further ado, let's get more into what he was doing in Dallas, or get into the background of the case, just to highlight a bit of what happened. And for people listening, I don't know how long this episode will be, but if it is kind of long, yeah, it's kind of long, because this is a huge one that we're building up to.
This is a big topic. It's a very popular conspiracy theory.
Simon's been excited about this one for a while, so indulge him.
Yeah. Hey, I spent most of this week just watching tons of documentaries, which was a great way to spend the week. But anyways, But yeah, November 1963, JFK traveling to Texas. Officially, it's to inspect a space program, but unofficially, everybody knows it's to rally up support in the Democratic Party because, I mean, Democratic Party in Texas don't always go hand to hand, and it was especially the case in those times where there were a lot of more tensions between the different candidates. So JFK was called out alongside his vice president and his beautiful wife to, drum up some support. And this was going fairly well. He took a few travels to some major cities, and then he was in Dallas on November 22nd. So his presidential motorcade was going through downtown Dallas, and surprisingly somewhat to the president and his staff, it was going very well. So well even that the wife of John Connally, who was the Democratic mayor of Texas at the time, she actually observed to him while they were together in the limo. She said to him, "Mr. President, you can't say that Dallas doesn't love you." And he turns to her and he replied, "No, you certainly can't." And those were his last words because he got shot a few seconds later.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's a brutal. Dallas really showed their love to JFK. For that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so he got shot at 12:30. Limo sped off to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. Tragic case all around. Just for reference, I'll come back to this, but this is kind of the route of where he was shot. So if you can see, there was the Dallas Book Depository where the shots came from, and he was hit as the route was taking a bit of a slower curve. So there's actually a really great angle for any potential assassins to shoot down upon the president, which is maybe suspicious, some would say. Mm-hmm. One of the really interesting things about this case is that there exists what is called the Zapruder film, which is a film of him getting shot in very good detail. I'm going to show it right now, so if anybody is a bit more sensitive, I suppose, to this, take a second not to look. But this is a slowed down version. Yeah, I think it wasn't color at the time.
So trigger warning, I guess.
Yes.
That's it.
I mean, you got mad at me last time about crabs, so.
That's true.
Yeah, so we can see people lining the street. There's a presidential motorcade coming through, and Zapruder standing a bit on a little elevated grassy knoll behind. So he's a really great shot, and you can see the motorcade coming in. On the actual film, you can hear some audio blips as one thing rings out. Nobody's really surprised. They thought it was a car backfiring. Right around now it happens, and you can see him slouching a bit. Oh. Jackie's looking a bit worried. She goes over to consult him, and the second shot that runs out, which you can see right about now.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Exactly.
Yeah, that one, like the first one, all right, but the second one was just...
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the limo
Holy
speeds up.
fucking shit.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That was a...
The official narrative is that 3 shots were fired. The first one missed. The second one hit him in the shoulder and also hit the Governor John Connally, who was sitting in front of him in the limo. And the third shot was the headshot, which struck him in the head. Yeah, so basically the shots were determined to have come from the Dallas Book Depository, which is a building with a really great view of where the motorcade was going at that time. And waiting in prey was, according to official reports, Lee Harvey Oswald, who earlier that day had entered the building where he was working with a long brown parcel, which he said contained shower rods, suspicious I suppose. And during his lunch break, he made a little sniper's nest, and when the president came by, he took a nice few shots with his $19.95 rifle from Italy, shot the president, and then headed downstairs. The official report actually has a police officer stopping him within 90 seconds of the shooting, being like, "Hey, what were you doing up there?" And holding him at gunpoint. His manager comes by and is like, "Oh no, he works here. He's free to go."
Oh my God.
Yep. Oswald buys themselves a Coke. Important point. Please keep that in mind. Exits the building calmly.
Oh, he's not a Pepsi guy, I see.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
Questionable.
Exits the building, takes a cab to his boarding house where he's staying, changes some clothes, then heads outside. Another officer stops him, recognizes him. He shoots the man 4 times. Dallas patrolman J.D. Tippett, killing him. Then he walks a bit more, runs into a Texas theater. Somebody catches him sneaking in without a ticket. The police are called, and he is arrested on the spot. Then, the twist that always fascinates me about this case is the next day, while he was being transferred from jail, local businessman, he was actually a nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, actually comes over and shoots Oswald once in the chest while he was being transferred, killing him, tying it all up.
Just that picture is like...
Yeah, that picture is iconic.
That is iconic, but just his facial expression as well is like it looks like he's got kicked in the nuts or something. It's
Exactly.
like, it's like, oh, I guess it makes sense if you get shot, but just the expression is so visceral, I guess.
Yeah. I have
Really shows it.
two interesting points which I thought always fascinated me. I want to ask you guys, how old do you think Oswald was at the time?
He looks very young.
22?
I would say maybe like mid to late 20s to like maybe early
Yeah.
30s at most.
Around our age, I guess.
He was 24.
Oh wow!
There you go. That's exactly
yeah.
like kind of our
That's
age range.
exactly
Yeah,
our age right there.
insane.
But definitely younger than I expected. I mean, good-looking guy, but he's quite a history, which we'll get into later on. But yeah. And secondly, why do you think Ruby shot him?
I mean, like, to get rid of the evidence before he squeals too much. That seems like the obvious solution.
Yeah, basically, let's just follow along.
Yeah, officially, the official record was that he was distraught at the crime and he wanted to save Mrs. Kennedy the discomfort of coming back to Dallas for the trial.
Oh,
Wow! What a wholesome motive for murder, right there.
of course it was about Jackie. Had to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Which is, it is a very suspect thing to do. And this was actually streamed on live television. So if you know anybody older from that time period, there's a good
Really?
chance they saw this. Yeah.
Wow.
To be fair, he does look like a gentleman with that fedora. I'll say. It's
Yeah.
a real
I have a better
gentleman
picture
move.
of him in a future slide where he looks, certainly a bit roly-poly, like the real true nightclub owner. But
Could I also say, like, what were the security doing? Like, how could they just allow this one random guy to get so close to like this very
Yeah.
important person, obviously, and just shoot him?
it's a
Well, the
great
guy
question.
on the guy on the left in the like the light suit just looks like what
Yeah,
the
they're
hell?
not trying to stop him. How could
Like, it doesn't-
Jack Ruby get like such a clear shot?
It's a good shot, which perplexed Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI at the time. But apparently, his nightclub, so Jack Ruby's nightclub, was frequently frequented by policemen in the area. So they actually knew him on a first-name basis, and he was allowed to like roam the station at that time.
Oh god.
And so he came up, nobody was like, "What are you doing?" And then he just reaches out, shoots the guy. He actually claims himself, Ruby, that he doesn't remember the incident until he was handcuffed.
What the hell? So this was that guy on the left is the leader of the FBI.
No, it's not. It's the local police chief, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
Hoover
I thought
himself
it
had many questions about how this happened too.
was- I can imagine.
Yeah, that is quite suspect. See, this is what I mean when I previously said. There's so many things about this case that just do not add up.
And
What's
just
that?
saying, Kevin, this isn't even going into the things that haven't added up yet. This is just the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Anyways, another really iconic photograph. The next about 90 minutes, 2 hours and 8 minutes to be exact, after the assassination of JFK, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, was sworn in as president on the Air Force One. And they have the iconic photograph of Jackie Kennedy standing beside him while he's being sworn in on what is actually not a Bible, but a Catholic religious book, which nobody realized. So, fun historical fact.
Is that the only thing they had at hand or something?
They saw it and they didn't bother to check, allegedly.
Well, I mean, JFK
Oh, it
was
looks-
Catholic, so I mean,
Well, it's got a cross on it and it says something about Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, and a less fun historical fact is that the clothing that Jackie's wearing still actually has drops of JFK's blood on it, because it's the same clothes he was wearing
yeah,
while
it's
he
the
was
same
shot.
clothes.
Oh, that's gory. That is dark.
Look at her; she looks so devastated, and I feel bad for her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the president is dead. Long live the president, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, immediately after the assassination, he formed the Warren Commission, which was the official investigation of the assassination. And would you like to do your best LBJ impression, Han, and read this quote about why people should join the Warren Commission? Because LBJ was trying to convince one of the Supreme Court judges to be on this.
Oh, I don't actually know what what LBJ sounded like
Texas.
so much. Texas. We've got to take this out of the arena where they're testifying that Khrushchev and Castro did this, and that kicking us into a war that can kill 40 million Americans in an hour.
Yeah. So basically, LBJ's motives after was just to clear it up so that it didn't cause any further frictions, because sure, it might have been a conspiracy, but make sure it's open and shut. So in a year's time, the Warren Commission finished, and they had concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole assassin. He was not working for any larger groups, and Jack Ruby was also not working for any larger groups. So all neatly wrapped up in a bow. How do we like? the official explanation of this case.
I mean, I guess, like, you philosophers, you guys understand Occam's razor. That is the simplest explanation, that there was no ulterior motive, and maybe Jack Ruby was just a God-fearing American patriot who wanted to heal the country with that act. But there's just so many things that do not add up.
And maybe he had a strange obsession with Jackie Kennedy,
Maybe.
which would not be strange at the time because she was kind of a thing. So.
A thing to everyone except JFK, apparently. But
no, but I mean, I get that there is some strange irony in that, of course. But
but that's I don't know. I do think there's more to it. There's definitely more to it.
But I do understand why LBJ did this, or like wanted to have the Warren Commission just wrap it all up. I mean, it was, I guess, a major incident which could have put America to war if it was found out that a different foreign body committed it.
Yeah, this was like, people like kind of forget the historical context of this, but this was like pretty much like was this even a year after the Cuban Missile Crisis? I don't think this was even a year after it. Like,
I think a little year after, a bit of a year after.
Yeah, it was very soon after, arguably the closest humanity has ever come to nuclear annihilation. Tensions were still very high. It would have been that much of a stretch for people to put two and two together and think that Khrushchev and Castro get revenge on JFK for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Because at the time, like, the perception was that, like, the U.S. and the West have, like, kind of won the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Because they got the Soviets to back off, and people didn't know that the Americans also had to take out their missiles from Turkey until way later. It wasn't. It was like seen as kind of a humiliation for the communist bloc back at that time.
It was slightly more than a year, actually.
Yeah.
October 1962 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then this was November 1963.
Yeah, there you go.
So just not that long. So yeah, you can imagine why people would still be in that mindset.
Yeah.
Still in that headspace.
Yeah. Well, talking about mindsets to be in, let's get a bit more skeptical and let's start unraveling the Warren Commission's official findings. So, first off, the first thing everybody likes to point to are the bullets. So, as I was saying, the first shot missed. The second shot hit JFK and Connolly. There's a little diagram up of how they were sitting, one behind each other. The third shot was the headshot on JFK, which killed him. Mm-hmm. So, the first skeptical part is, the bullets were shot, if you saw the film, in about the span of a few seconds, honestly. What Lee Harvey Oswald was using, he was using an Italian 6.5 by 52 millimeter Carcano rifle, which was a bolt-action rifle. So each shot he had to chamber and then shoot out, then pop up the thing, then rechamber and shoot out again. So at the rate he was firing, to get one direct hit and one direct headshot was awfully ambitious, to be honest. So some people are skeptical he could even pull it out. I don't know if you ever fired a bolt-action rifle, Kevin, but...
No, the only guns I've fired have been semi-automatic.
Like a true American, but yeah.
There you go. But yeah, I do know how it works. You have to manually load in each bullet, right? You don't really have a magazine. That's pretty much what it is.
To be fair, you can get pretty quick at that, pretty adept at it.
You could.
True.
And some people are really quick at changing reloading bolt-action rifles.
But shooting 3 in how much was it? Like a few seconds? That's very quick.
Yeah.
I will say.
And getting one direct headshot and one other like upper body shot is quite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, so according to the official report, only 3 shots were fired. People dispute this, as we'll get into a second. But first shot missed, second shot. I'm gonna read you the path of the second shot. And as we do it, I want to hear how plausible you think this all goes. So, all right. And I'll mention like 7 or 8 points, and each one is a entry or exit wound that single bullet made. So the first thing that happened, it entered JFK's back near his spine. Then the second point, it exited through his neck/throat and also clipped his tie knot. Third point, it flew forward and entered Connolly's back below his right armpit. Fourth point, it exited Connolly's back around his right nipple. Fifth point, it entered Connolly's wrist, which was up in the air. Sixth point, it exited his wrist. Seventh point, it entered Connolly's left leg, where it was stuck until he was on a gurney. And its eighth point, it later fell out as he was being undressed at the hospital. And that was one bullet. And this is known as the single bullet theory or the magic bullet theory. Because it does stretch the imagination a bit to see how this bullet took that almost crooked of a path, people say, to hit, to enter and exit bodies at 8 different points, basically.
All right. Well, I mean, to be fair, like bullets do like penetrate bodies, right? They do like fly through bodies. So I think that part of it is like it's decently believable. But the problem is like the path. Okay, the path actually for the most part is okay, but it's just the part where it goes from in Kennedy's spine, right? And then like it magically just changes directions and then goes through his neck. I think that part is. You even see it on the diagram. It like completely changes direction. It like turns. Like how's? I'm not like too familiar with the physics of like bullets. But I'm not really sure how that's possible. Bullets usually go straight, don't they? They don't turn.
Well, actually, bullets ricochet quite a lot.
Okay.
When I mentioned that one time when Reagan got shot. So actually, the guy missed completely, hit the car door, and then the bullet ricocheted 4 times and hit him in the shoulder.
Oh, okay.
So bullets do kind of, because they like their velocity is that high that if they hit something that resists it, they just kind of bounce off
that makes
it.
Sense.
And retain a lot of that velocity because it was so high. It doesn't slow down as quickly.
But do you think that bullet hit something that resisted it? Like, maybe his clothes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there might have been some metal in the clothes or something.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
that makes a bit more sense.
Spine's pretty hard as well. You reckon it could
maybe
ricochet, but generally bullets explode on impact. Like they kind of shatter and turn into little bits.
Can I give you something that might change your perspective a bit?
Ooh.
So I have a picture to the side of the type of bullet that he used to shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that was the second shot that was fired?
What do you mean?
That bullet on the side is the second bullet. It's the one that they found of Connolly. It's the one that traveled through the body, entered and exited 7 times.
So what? It's 3 inches.
It's completely intact.
It's completely intact. Yeah, that is. Well, to be fair, if it ricocheted this much, it must have. It couldn't have not stayed intact, just because it would have been had to be very sturdy if it ricocheted that much. Otherwise, it just kind of explodes after the first or second ricochet.
Hans, as an aside, are you an aficionado of the firearms? You know a lot about this, it seems.
No, I just watch a lot of television.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I have a lot of Wikipedia pages.
You Europeans are not fond of the firearms, it seems, right?
No, but we do like our grueling police investigation series. So a lot of those.
Okay,
there you go.
Okay.
Watch a lot of CSI.
Well, maybe not completely convinced. I'm gonna flip back. I'm gonna show you the Zapruder film again, okay? Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you whether he gets shot from the front or the back, okay? So keep an eye out for if any of the shots gets shot from the front or the back, okay?
Man, this is like 120p right here.
Hey, it was the 60s.
Yeah.
It's surprising they had a film this good, to be honest.
Enhance!
Please, give me some HD.
Okay, now for the headshot, just see front or back for the headshot.
Oh, I think it was like more to the side, front.
Yeah, like to the right. Like
yeah,
kind of ended there.
Okay, I'm gonna flip backwards a few, and so here's the diagram, right? All the shots came from behind, officially. Yes, and so we saw how his head kind of exploded like it was shot from the front.
Yeah.
Is that something you would agree with? It looks a lot more plausible that is caused by being shot from the front than the behind.
So you're saying it didn't come from the sniper's lair?
Exactly. That's what a lot of people say. That first off, there's too many wounds on JFK and Connolly to just be the 3 bullets. And secondly, it seems obvious that at least 1 or 2 of those bullets came from the front before him. And that's where we get into the infamous Grassy Knoll, which was directly in front of where JFK would have been.
So the shooter came from there.
Well,
is that where the iconic photograph of those random guys were, and every single one of those guys had a name?
I'm not gonna mention those guys in specific, but I'll mention the whereabouts of that photo. But if you see the building, the big blocky building is where the sniper was from. But if you see this little hedge thing here, right? That's where the Grassy Knoll is. It's also fenced there. So it's fair to say a guy could have been there, and as JFK is right where the yellow car is, Somebody could have shot out from the front while there was still fire from behind from the sniper layer and at least hit him. And then once the shots have been done, there's a parking lot behind him, there's a train yard rails, there's good cover. Really easy to get away.
Interesting. Well, I mean, the shots, they do not line up. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And to go more in depth, this is a picture taken from the other side of JFK's assassination. And you can see here the grassy knoll and the fence on there, which is a tremendously good cover. And if we even zoom in near the tree, there's a little bulge. And you can see a little orb-like thing. And people have recreated this photo of the guy standing wearing a hat. And it looks exactly like there's a guy peering out from behind a fence in that photograph.
Oh.
I can't see that at all. Like, that just looks like little splodges. Oh, wow. I don't know.
I think that's a bit of a... Oh, okay, I know what he's talking about. Like, you see that, like, you know, you see that little crowd of people, the tree beside it? It's that tree, right? And then, like on the... in between where that tree and the fence, like, kind of mix. Like, there's apparently, like, a little blob thing, and then, like...
Yeah. People reported initially thinking the fire came from the grassy knoll, and people reported seeing flashes of light, and they reported hearing sounds of multiple bullets, and they also reported smelling gun smoke, which they would not have smelled if it came from the Dallas Book of Depository. All of this was discarded entirely by the Warren Commission.
Suspicious.
The plot thickens.
Yeah. Well, there's more to thicken this plot.
It's gonna be a solid by the time we're done with it.
Let's take a look at let's take a look a bit more at Oswald, right? So guess what kind of evidence do you think they had that he was the sniper?
Smoking gun? He had a gun?
Well, the gun was found in the sniper's nest, as long as 3 spent cartridges.
Access to the building, the fact that he exited the building right at the time, that was...
Were fingerprint technology like a thing back then?
That's the thing. The only physical evidence linking him to that site was 1 or 2 palm prints. No other DNA or finger forensic evidence whatsoever.
None?
None.
It's kind of... Like, you leave behind quite a lot of DNA on a gun, especially, because there's, like...
Did they have... They had DNA... Did they even have DNA, like, reading technology back then? This is the 60s.
Still the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And it's a presidential assassination. You'd assume they would find something, right?
Yeah, but that's fair.
There are a few other suspicious things about what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald in the moments following. First off, him being stopped by the cop, J.D. Tippett, while he was leaving his house. How did the cop identify him that quickly, is the question a lot of people have. Because his description might have been vaguely said on the radio, but if you're a police officer, you're stopping every single man that looks like him who just happens to be walking down the street looking non-suspicious.
Wasn't there like didn't you say there was like another police officer who like intercepted him within 90 seconds of him supposedly shooting JFK? Maybe that other police officer tipped him off going like, oh, this guy seems suspicious.
Yeah, but that police officer was told, oh, he's fine, he works here.
Yeah, but I mean, just because you're told something doesn't mean you believe them.
Yeah. I mean, it's still suspicious. I think it's still interesting. More interesting, I find, is how they caught him at Oswald, the movie theater, right? Because if you recall, the only tip the police got that he was there was the ticket master from the movie theater called the police saying, hey, there's a guy in my theater who didn't pay for his ticket.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. And that's how they
showed
caught
up.
him?
Yeah.
Oh.
And apparently... right when JFK is shot in your city, your highest priority is responding to ticket line skippers in movie theaters.
Yes.
Obviously, right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, maybe he didn't know that the president was shot. Like, it was only happened, like, what, a few minutes ago?
About an hour
ago.
I
feel like you'd know, especially the amount of stuff that would be happening at that point, you'd know.
Yeah. It's just kind of suspect how they even, like, swarmed him there, took him in. Yeah.
Interesting. So all this is pointing towards Lee Harvey Oswald just being the fall guy.
Somewhat, yeah. Another interesting thing, he had his wallet on him when they arrested him. Guess what was in his wallet?
What?
A gun.
He did have a gun on him, but that's another interesting point. Now you remind me. When J.D. Tippett was shot, right? There were a few eyewitnesses linking Oswald to the crime scene, but eyewitnesses, right? But the biggest evidence was 4 bullet casings which he left behind. So tell me, if you know, you guys know a bit about guns, right, Han? You're being given this new identity now, as the gunslinger.
I
Gun
this is what
aficionado.
happens if you watch enough shows, kids.
Yeah, but revolvers don't eject their cartridges, so that means he had to stop, remove the cartridges, drop them on the ground, and then run away.
Maybe he had a really old revolver
Perhaps.
and like kind of drop it from the cold. Well, to be fair, the bolt, yeah, a bolt action rifle does like
Yeah.
eject its cartridge
Yeah.
immediately, but let's be honest, he didn't like shoot the guy point blank range 4 times with a bolt action rifle.
No, it was a
that
pistol.
could happen.
It was a pistol revolver.
Oh.
So he had to purposely shoot him 4 times, be like, oh, yo, these bullet casings, I no longer need them, unloads them, throws them down, runs off. Plus the bullets that were in Tippett were not linked to the gun that he had because they were so broken that they couldn't be linked back to the gun.
To be fair, I'd like to kind of defend that perspective. There is a situation where you just shoot a cop, you're full of adrenaline, you're like, oh shit, I just like emptied my cartridge, I got to reload, and then like right at the moment you're just kind of reloading as you're walking away or running away.
So
Like I
Personal
see that
experience here, Han. I can see it coming in handy.
definitely. Okay, wait. So he had 2 guns then, right? He had then, for this
Yeah.
theory to make any sense, he had to have that like bolt action rifle that he shot the
Yeah.
president with, and then he also had a sidearm revolver. Okay, I guess that makes
that makes a lot
It's
of
Texas.
sense actually. Like,
Yeah.
but also a bolt, you wouldn't want to have a bolt action rifle if you're gonna make an escape. Like, how do you conceal that?
You're familiar with this this line of thinking, eh, Han?
Yes, I've shot a lot of presidents with bolt action rifles.
Yeah. But as I was alluding to, the thing he had in his pocket, sorry to go on the tangent here, but he had a little card which included the name, phone number, and badge number of Dallas FBI agent James Holtzley.
Oh, I did not know that.
And apparently he was on the list as an FBI informant, being paid a few $100s a month.
Really now?
Okay, that's kind of
Additionally,
That's kind of a thing.
in years after the commission, both the CIA and FBI admitted they had him on active surveillance before the time scene, and they never really did anything about it. Well, JFK was in town. And most importantly, one thing that always struck with me, Oswald never admitted to the crime. He steadfastly denied ever shooting the president, as well as ever owning a rifle, as well as ever, being around for that. He even said he wasn't a communist. He said he was a Marxist, which made a difference.
Well, I mean,
you know how those communists get with their terminology.
we had Marxists here too, and they were pretty fucking militant in the 50s. It was the 50s, man. It was the 60s, man. Come on.
You guys had Marxists in the Netherlands.
The thing, though, is some guy like this, you'd expect him to fess up to, That's what happens to most of these lone shooters. They admit to this kind of stuff.
You might have chickened out at the last minute.
Yeah, might
To be
have
fair, like,
thought he could have gotten away with it.
and then you get caught, and you're like, oh fuck, I didn't think this.
Just casually get away with murdering a president.
I didn't think this through.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the other sketchy part. Jack Ruby. So my man Jack Ruby owned his own little the Carousel Club in downtown Dallas, frequented by the Dallas police. There are very strong rumors that the Secret Service were even there the night before the assassination, living it up till like 2 a.m.
Looks looking smart.
No,
Looking
Yes.
dapper.
looking litty.
Yeah. So you think this is pretty key evidence, right? A key witness, some guy who just shot the suspect. Apparently, the Warren Commission only interviewed him once. They interviewed him for about half an hour and decided he was not relevant to the case and left.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
He was the guy that shot the key witness was not
Yeah.
relevant to the case.
Yeah. And do you know who interviewed him?
Who?
It was Warren himself and his buddy, Gerald Ford, future president.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Really?
He was on the
Gerald
Warren
Ford?
Commission.
Oh wow, that
Yeah.
has some implications.
My
Yeah.
God.
Another key thing to note, he was rumored to be heavily in debt at the time of the shooting.
Oh, so he was paid off.
He was also very strongly linked with the mob because he was an underground nightclub owner, basically.
He does look like a mobster.
Yeah, he's got that. He's got that Al Capone look.
He's got that absolutely.
There are rumors he was even running with Al Capone in the 1930s in Chicago because
there you go.
he did move down to Dallas from Chicago. Who knows why? And he was rumored to be involved in kind of a human trafficking scheme where they would change out the girls every so often between different strip clubs across the country. So, it kind of makes
I can
sense.
see that.
There are even rumors that he was so involved with the mob that he was running guns to Cuba for the mob, as well as visiting jailed mob leaders in Cuba for them and people connecting him there. But again, the Warren report determined he had no links whatsoever to organized crime. So maybe I'm just making things up.
Yeah, but even if he didn't, like the fact that he shot the guy who shot the president, like should suggest that he should be the person that they should be interviewing the most.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. A very handy part of the case is that the police investigation for the Dallas police, they cannot investigate legally if the suspect is dead. So it really closed the door on any investigative work they were able to do after the fact.
Wait, what? Wait. Sorry, can you repeat
So
that?
the Dallas police weren't able to investigate the crime as a crime because the suspect of it was dead and caught. Basically.
Oh,
So the case was closed.
Really?
Yeah, it was considered closed
So
at the time.
that seems a pretty ridiculous law, to be
very
completely honest with you.
ridiculous.
Oh, I guess it was used to save on resources.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what about murder suicides? Like,
Uh,
I guess
I mean, that's pretty open shut,
that is open. Yeah, true. But even then, like, if you to determine something to be a murder suicide, you kind of need to investigate it. It could also just be a double murder. Like, you need it.
I mean,
Anyway.
on the topic of murder suicides, there are people who link a lot of weird deaths around this case too. So I'm gonna do a new segment which is called "Conspiracy or Not a Conspiracy," where I'm gonna run through 10 potential weird deaths which happened within 4 years of the Kennedy assassination, and you guys give a
Go.
yes, it's a conspiracy, or no, it's completely not suspect at all.
Oh, all right.
Are
let's
we
hear this.
ready?
Yes, I am.
Weird
ready.
death segment. Oh, we have fun here.
First guest, first on the stage is Jim Koof. He was one of 2 reporters who went to Ruby's apartment on the night of him shooting Oswald. He was killed later on by a karate chop to the back of the neck by some unknown intruders in his own apartment.
Unknown
Conspiracy or no
intruders?
conspiracy?
Like, were there ever any like investigations into who these random people were?
That's all I
He
know.
got killed by a karate
To the
chop.
back of the neck.
That is
So,
brutal way to go.
conspiracy or no conspiracy?
I don't know. That seems kind of sus to me.
Very sus.
Okay. Next guy, I told you there were two journalists that went over. The next guy is Bill Hunter. He was the other reporter. He was shot by a policeman in a police station, and that was deemed to be accidental.
Well, it is Texas.
An accidental shooting by
In a police station.
Like I said, it is Texas.
I guess it does. I guess it can happen. But I mean, that police officer must have had terrible trigger discipline.
Like, how does that happen? Does he, like, kind of reach into his pocket while he's being interviewed to, like, grab a cigarette, and then he just, like,
Maybe
shoots him in the head?
Yeah, maybe. This is Texas we're talking about.
Hey.
Everyone has a gun.
So, conspiracy
Texas.
or no conspiracy?
It does seem an awfully big coincidence.
So first one, all right. So from a reasonable, like, trying to rationalize it a bit, why would you kill someone with a karate chop to the back of the neck? I feel like that was an accident by robbers. 'Cause, like, if you wanted the guy dead, you'd shoot him. You wouldn't karate chop him in the back of the head. That seems like an attempt to knock him out, which then killed him, like, inadvertently. That's what I'd say. Like, nobody
Okay.
gets killed with a karate chop in the neck
Okay.
intentionally. I feel like you'd be a badass to attempt that. And the other one, like, could just, like, be a Texas cop.
Sure. Okay, so we've gone through 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Next one, William Whaley. He was the guy who, the cab driver who drove Oswald from the scene of the crime to his apartment, to his rented room. He died in a car crash alongside the driver who crashed into him. He was the first Dallas cab driver, to be killed on duty since 1937.
I mean, car accidents do happen.
Some guy ran into his car, though.
But the guy that ran into his car also died.
Yeah,
so
so like,
I mean,
Kind of-
conspiracy.
I don't know. I
or
feel like that one
conspiracy?
seems the least conspiracy-ish.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it was just a car accident. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm a key witness. Okay, next one. Erlene Roberts. She was the boarding room lady of Oswald. She randomly died of a heart attack at age 60. No autopsy was ever ordered.
Well, I mean, people randomly die.
Okay.
Yeah, but it had to be rule and a heart attack, I guess. So
Well, no autopsy.
Yeah, you wouldn't do an You wouldn't naturally do an autopsy if you can just rule it as a heart attack. To be fair, I don't think they do autopsies on anything if they don't suspect foul play.
Maybe. So
and 60 back then wasn't like extremely young either. Back in the day, the life expectancy
this was the
that good.
1962. Okay.
This was the 60s. In the 60s, the life expectancy wasn't like amazing.
I mean, if you're getting shot when you walk in police stations, yeah, I guess it's a bit low.
Shit happens.
Yeah, I'm sure people died in their 60s back then.
How about this guy on the topic of heart attacks? Ruby's lead lawyer was named Tom Howard. He died of a heart attack aged 48 after acting weirdly for 2 days, people say.
What is weirdly?
Yeah, I think weirdly could be subjective.
Okay, less so than that.
Was he screaming and flailing, or was he kind of acting suspiciously, or?
I don't know. They just said weirdly.
Well, 48 is pretty young for a heart attack.
I mean, I will say that, like, I presume that these are like the most like weird deaths out of like tens of thousands of people that could be like in any way remotely connected to this case. And with a sample size that large, you're gonna have some weird deaths like heart attacks at 48 and like car accidents.
In less than 4 years, all within less than 4 years of JFK assassination.
I'll say that it's kind of odd that so many of these people would have died. Even if I think there's a natural explanation for most of them, it does raise suspicion. I agree.
I'll have a few more I'll run through really quickly because there's a few other good ones in here. Lee Bowers, he was a witness who was working on the rail tower, so he had a view over all of like the Dallas like area where JFK was getting shot. He died after his car crashed into a bridge, a bridge pillar randomly.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. People in Dallas don't even need to work on their driving, it seems.
That is pretty, that's pretty harsh. I mean, that could be foul play. That could also be an idiot driving. Was there any cause of death, like, related to drinking or something?
I have no
established
idea.
There? Or did he just run into
a
thing and that was it? Okay.
Anyways, next guy, Hank Killam. His wife was a dancer at Ruby's club at the time of this happening. He received a 4 a.m. call. He jumped out of a first floor window and bled to death from cuts to his throat.
What? Okay.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yep. Okay. Well, all right. I'm just trying to rationalize this because that one seems very suspicious. But like, you mentioned he was the husband of one of Ruby's girls, right?
Yeah.
Ruby was already a suspicious figure. I assume his girls are probably like kind of suspicious as well. So like, maybe this is like some like mobster related thing.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. To be fair, the connection is kind of loose because it's the husband of a girl that worked at his club.
Yeah,
and like the way he died, honestly, mob killings are pretty wild as well. So this would not surprise me that he was just flung out of the window.
Okay, next guy, Edward Bonavides. He was the brother of a key witness in the JP Tippit shooting, like the key witness. He died of a gunshot to the head in a bar, and this was said to be a case of mistaken identity.
Mistaken identity for who?
I don't know.
Texas.
Yeah. Okay, next guy, next woman, sorry. Nancy Jane Mooney. She was a stripper at the club at the time as well. She was arrested for fighting her roommate, and then the next day she was found to have hung herself in her cell in the Dallas jail.
Oh my God.
And final person is Dorothy Kilgallen. She was a reporter who was very critical of the JFK assassination, thinking it was a complete conspiracy. And she had recently had a private meeting with Jack Ruby for a few hours. And she was found dead in her Manhattan apartment due to officially a combination of barbiturates and alcohol, which was seen before in the Marilyn Manson case, Marilyn Monroe case.
Okay, I'll say that the 3 journalist deaths seem the most suspicious to me.
Yeah.
But the others I think could be explained by other factors, but those like journalist deaths, they like
especially the first 2, even if they can be rationalized, the fact that these are both reporters in a pretty short span of time, that does
those first 2 were they both showed up to Ruby's club the night before, right? So that presumably they could have heard something. And then they both died of like foul play, right? I forgot how the second one died again, but like
the lead lawyer guy also went to Ruby's apartment with them at that time. But anyways, just saying that there's a bunch of conspiracy theorists who point to a lot of suspicious deaths around this case, which, I mean, they're just kind of wacky, a lot of them, right? So moving onwards, the last piece of like weird thing about the evidence. So JFK was actually not really like his body was autopsied in I think it was the Naval Air Base in like Virginia or somewhere. So they flew him out there. The thing is, according to Dallas law, you're not allowed to move the body like that. So the FBI actually took it at gunpoint, as the rumors are, took him out of there. And none of the autopsy pictures have ever been leaked to the public, and only a select few people have been able to see them.
That will make sense. I feel like that's kind of a gory thing to leak.
Yeah, especially of a widely beloved president.
Yeah, that would be pretty harrowing.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to release that.
Well, that is about the end of the weird, suspicious evidence here. I'm going to move on to the suspects in a second, but how warm are we on this being some kind of conspiracy?
Pretty warm. It just seems that the government just like didn't really care about this, which seems odd. Why would they not care about like the golden boy president getting killed in such a public way? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. There should have been way more smoke.
Yeah.
But it feels like it was quite kind of swept under the rug because it was all handled in such a weird way. There's just too many strange things in this case, which never really got answered, which, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So, we've established this is a bit of a conspiracy, as we said. Let's get into some of the suspects. And these are some pretty high-level suspects, not like random guys on the street here. We're going for the conspirators, So, we're going to start, and I've kind of arranged them a bit thematically. So if they're a bit jumbled or something, don't blame me. Blame history, I suppose. But we're going to start with our good old friend, Lyndon Bain Johnson.
Starting off strong from the... Jesus.
Wow, yes, that's quite a massive suspect.
Bombshell to drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I will admit right off the bat, there is a lack of physical evidence really tying it all together. But, there's suspicions and stuff. So, first off, quite obviously and quite evidently, he had the most to gain. He had the presidency to gain, in a sense. And there were really open tensions with JFK between him and between LBJ and JFK. And it was quite publicly known that, LBJ and JFK did not see eye to eye on a lot of things. And LBJ himself was quite, not enjoying the vice presidency position anymore. He felt a bit, emasculated, as one account I was reading said about it. He also, right before, remember that picture of him getting inaugurated on the plane, right? Or sworn in, sorry. Right before that, allegedly, he was joking to the White House aides about how stupid of a man JFK was and just making fun of him in front of his widow. Well, the body wasn't even cold, So
that is pretty cold.
Yeah. And to add more on top of it, JFK was also himself becoming increasingly displeased with LBJ because one of the big reasons he was even on the team as vice president was Texas as a state. Because he was a Texan, he was supposed to deliver Texas votes. But now JFK was dragged to Texas basically because of LBJ's inability to control his own state to do some work there. So if anything, he technically was at fault for getting him shot in that sense. And most damningly, he had a mistress at the time, LBJ, because every good Democratic president has at least 4 mistresses during their campaign.
Do that now.
Joe Biden is fine, hopefully.
Oh, Joe Biden has been rocking that grandpa energy.
His mistress, Madeline Duncan Brown, later said that on the night before the assassination, they were living it up in I think it was Dallas or Austin, the one of the cities beforehand on the trip in Texas. And he goes to her to the side, and he's like, do you want to read the quote, hon?
I gotta do it in a Texan accent, right? After tomorrow, those Kennedys will never embarrass me again. That's no threat. That's a promise.
That's pretty good. Pretty good Texan accent right there.
Yeah. Pretty good claim, too. Although people are skeptical of, the logistics behind this claim. But, yeah. So, I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, what do we think of LBJ as the JFK conspirator?
I don't know. I feel like... Okay, I get that there's tension between them, but I don't think that in and of itself is enough for Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson here to assassinate the president. And like that quote could be taken out of context because that quote was like before the Kennedy was like due to like do that like rah rah rally the base in Texas, right?
It was the day before his assassination, not even
yeah, but Kennedy was there to drop the base, so he could be talking about that instead of maybe implying that he would assassinate JFK. It just seems like if Lyndon B. Johnson was responsible for this, I feel like it would get out a lot more. And like it would seem to be because it just seems so obvious the vice president assassinating the president to take over the throne.
I think at the time, around the years near this time, there are polls which indicated that 20% of Americans believed that LBJ had something to do with it. Something like that.
How many Americans believe that the Earth is flat?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, only 5%. But
yeah, I mean, like I feel like you get 10 to 20% of
most things. Yeah. But on this theory, so with that quote, I'm gonna say that there is a possibility that Madeline Duncan Brown might be saying that just to get some attention, because that is not uncommon to happen. That people would just kind of make things up to generate some kind of media attention so they can get money. Also, tabloid press is usually quite generous when it comes to people providing those quotes. I've been looking a lot into like some shit about Princess Diana recently, so also an interesting one to talk about at some point. But tabloid media really likes to flaunt some, like throw money at people to get some juicy quotes like this. So I'm skeptical.
And also, I know that like you said that LBJ and JFK had like a lot of tension, but I feel like that was just like a lot of like I'm the more manly man sort of tension. Like when it came to policies, I don't think they were that different. LBJ continued a lot of JFK's policies. Like for instance, he was the one that kind of got the Civil Rights Act signed, despite himself being like kind of a racist Southerner. He also instituted like the Great Society Medicaid programs that JFK was like kind of a proponent for. Like, I don't think when it came to like domestic policies, they were that different.
In terms of policies, in terms of international policies, he also continued the Vietnam War policy, which was something JFK had been rumored to be shutting down, which was pissing off the military-industrial complex, who is another suspect who I'm not covering in this, but it's kind of connected to this, where maybe they made a few things like, hey, yo, Lyndon, my man, you could be the big boy in town if we take him off. If Vietnam needs a bit more intervention. Another thing is, I don't like LBJ because apparently he beat up Pearson one day. Did you hear about the story, Kevin?
Beat up a what?
Pearson, former
Prime Minister. Beat up your Prime Minister?
Really?
Oh my God.
Really? They got in a fight?
Yeah, they were at their summer home. They were at his summer home or something like that in like Camp David or something. And Pearson was big on anti-Vietnam, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
He was a bit of an anti-Vietnam guy. And he tried advocating this to LBJ. And LBJ apparently like, held him up, kind of like, manhandled him around a little. Because he was a bit of a small man. And he's like, don't you ever tell me what to do about my country again, He left him looking quite shaken.
I feel like the idea that this was more of a dick measuring contest between the two gets stronger and stronger every second. He just sounds like the typical red-blooded American hawk that just like really wants to present himself as a strong man.
Hey, blue-blooded American hawk, come on.
Blue because he was a Democrat.
It makes it sound like he's he's royalty. I don't agree with that.
There's no royalty in America.
Just peasants. Sorry, Americans. I love you.
1 out of 10 rating. 1 out of 10 rating. What do we think?
Like maybe we'll be generous and give it a 2.
Ooh, harsh critic, I see. Okay. Yeah. Let's go to the next person. Oh, this is a big one, actually.
DB Cooper.
We're going to talk about the mob and the mafia. It is not, actually.
DB Cooper.
No, so basically, have you guys heard about the long history of the Kennedy family and the mafia?
The Interior Minister, brother Kennedy, was really, really, really strong on fighting the mafia. Like, that was his big thing.
That's true, but have you heard about the families? The reason the Kennedy family got rich was the mafia.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Were they like bootlegging or something?
Yes. His father, Joseph Kennedy, so JFK's father, he was a very close friends of the big gangster on the screen here, Sam Giancana. This Sam Giancana fellow, he was an American mobster and head of the Chicago outfit, which is the leading, mob crew there. And Joseph Kennedy basically made his entire family fortune off insider trading, using, I guess, these bootlegger kind of things. This was really sketchy stuff back then, and JFK himself banned the practices that his own family got money from. So, yeah, I guess you do the right thing, but you keep the benefits of what your past did. There's also extremely strong rumors that the mob themselves fixed a few of the ballots in key states during JFK's election in 1961. So I think several states were probably flipped via ballot tampering in JFK's favor. And
that election was actually very close as well.
Yes.
So that would have made a difference.
Yes, and Sam Giancana allegedly had more access to the White House in the first few years, and I guess some other mobsters as well, than they should have, until JFK had somewhat of a change of heart, and he started going on his anti-mobster crusade that you were referring to, Han. He appointed his brother, Robert Kennedy, as a chief attorney, and together they stamped down a bit. So before Kennedy's administration, the number of mafia leaders that were being targeted for prosecution by the U.S. administration was around 40. During his administration, it was 2,300.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was causing quite a clamp up, and he was going after high-profile guys as well. And there were becoming more and more threats against JFK and his brother. And I mean, Robert Kennedy himself did meet somewhat of a conspiratorial end himself, which many say was at the hand of the mob.
I would not honestly. I think that is very, very likely that Robert Kennedy got shot by the mob in some way. That was that. Like, that is just a shoo-in.
Wow.
There's too many motives.
If RFK got shot by the mob, why not JFK?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And also, this would make the Jack Ruby thing make some sense then, because Jack Ruby had ties with the mob, right? And that's why he killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald was probably just like the fall guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe not even the actual shooter, and then the mob guy maybe was an actual shooter, and that's why everything was so hush hush, because the mob ran U.S. politics at that time.
Yeah, there's a bunch of identified mob shooters who could have had a role in this. I'm not going to go into details about who they are, but there's many hypotheses about it. Another thing to remember is Cuba. So back before Castro had solidified all of his power, Cuba was a really big den for the mob themselves, and they were actually earning around $100 million a year from just casinos and hotels and stuff like that in Cuba and Havana. However, when Castro took over, he was like, nah, and he shut them all out. So they lost a huge stream of revenue, and JFK refused to do anything about it. So not only is that potential an opportunity to be mad at JFK, it also introduces collusion with the CIA. And there's many accounts of mob CIA collusion, which hints at, maybe they were jointly involved in operations.
I was just about to say, he tried.
He invaded Cuba in the Bay of Pigs.
We'll talk about that in a second when we get to the CIA section. But JFK himself was openly opposed. Well, he was behind the doors. He was enraged at the CIA for Bay of Pigs and did not support the idea whatsoever.
He only his name was on it, but he didn't actually mastermind it.
I know.
He fucking hated it.
Off on it.
Yeah, and he actively undermined efforts to continue invading Cuba, which the mob was not happy about because of their capitalist endeavors, so to say.
Yeah, well, to be fair, their investment was there. This is in the Godfather Part 2. This is literally the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's, I guess, most of the mob ties, so to say. After he was assassinated, 3 different mobs claimed responsibility for the incident. So the Miami, I think New York or New Orleans mob, as well as
because of course they would.
Mob. So
it's like the Islamic State or Al Qaeda at this point. Yeah, they're gonna claim it because why the hell wouldn't they? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, what do we think of the mob here? The mafia, the mob, whatever you want to call them.
I'll be honest, this seems quite believable. There's a lot of evidence to support it, but I don't think that they acted alone. That's my one caveat, because I feel like they just don't have the capacity to act alone. The mob is pretty powerful, but are they powerful enough to assassinate the president directly?
Yes, I think they are. Honestly,
maybe I would say maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I think there's definitely something.
I think the fact that they might have some compromise might have had some compromise on JFK kind of helps the fact that they did this and something. It was just kind of tied up in the whole mob shit anyway, so it makes a lot more. It makes some sense to me. I'd give it like a 6. It's plausible.
Yeah, and I mean, as Kevin was hinting at, the CIA mob collusion was something that was investigated heavily by committees afterwards. So I believe during the Church Committee in 1975, Sam Giancana, the mobster on the screen, was actually called to testify, and they would ask him about the CIA collusion. He was murdered a few days before he was supposed to take stage there. So,
Oh wow.
but yeah, CIA ties, mob ties. There's a lot of stuff behind there, which I didn't go too much detail in because that could be another hour of our time. But we'll just leave it at that and go to our next beautiful suspect here, my man Justin Trudeau. Let's get his dad on the stage. Fidel Castro, for everybody who's listening. But basically, Fidel Castro, as we all know, was the target of many a CIA assassination attempt. Many of these were not signed off by JFK, so he was a bit of an innocent bystander in some sense, JFK. But eventually Castro got a bit, fed up and made a few statements where he's like, yo, if the US is trying to assassinate me, they should watch out for their own leaders. And, one thing might have led to another, and, one exploding cigar too much. And one day it's no longer nice Fidel, the gloves are off. And to add more fuel to his bonfire, Oswald himself had some Cuban ties in the sense that he was a communist, and he was, openly caught handing out some pro-Castro leaflets in New Orleans a few weeks before the shootings. And he had also suspiciously visited the Cuban embassy a few days before the shootings as well. 2 months before the shootings, actually. The Cuban embassy in Mexico City, in Mexico.
Did they still have an embassy at that time?
They did in Mexico City.
Oh, Mexico City, yeah, all right, that makes a lot of sense.
However, Castro did always deny that he had no part in it in interviews, and he did suggest it was probably some right-wing radical acting alone.
Of course it was a right-wing radical.
Yeah, of course he would say that.
So what do we think of our man Castro?
I will say that it is kind of weird how right at the start of this podcast, the Warren Commission pretty much said that, we don't want people to think that it was like some communist plot to kill the president of the United States. But why are they ignoring that possibility? What if it was a communist plot to kill the American president? I don't think it's that far-fetched.
To be fair, I think they might have considered it, but that's not something you want to put into an America that didn't, this is not so long after the Red Scare. I feel like that would not go down well.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, that would explain a lot of why the government was so hush hush about this, right? Because it actually was a communist conspiracy, and they just didn't want the American people to know and kickstart World War III.
Why didn't? Oh my God! There must have been some kind of some communist operative at some point after the fall of the Soviet Union who was aware of this and was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna blow the fuse now. Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Let's fucking do it."
I don't know. The arms of the KGB.
That is very true.
But this was Castro, though. Do you think his arms were that long?
I don't know. I feel like Castro specifically, maybe not.
Or, well, the Cuban Empire, I suppose.
the Cuban Empire. I don't know. Cuba at that point was more of I don't think Cuba had the resources to pull this off. But maybe Cuba, with the help of the Soviet Union, I could see.
Was it that hard to pull off? You just kind of radical. You can have some radical people in the US and kind of organize them around this kind of stuff and give them a gun. Apparently, if the president's riding around in an open top car, I feel like this was exactly. This shouldn't. I feel like it's pretty easy to arrange that, but maybe that's my complete ignorance of security talking.
I mean, according to the Warren Commission, it was just not Cuba.
Well, it's just the one guy.
If some guy on his own could just one day wake up and decide to assassinate the president, some Cuban unit probably could have as well.
Well, I'm sure Fidel would not be so reckless as to do this on his own. He would have had to consult with Khrushchev and the USSR. I would think.
I mean, these damn little states, can't have everything under control. Always, you know. I mean, look at World War One. It got launched because some assassin got too greedy, right?
That's true. That's true. Maybe.
It was more about an archduke getting too greedy and kind of just being an idiot and just walking into a random bar. Anyway, go on.
I will say this is a bit more likely than I think people realize, or like,
Okay.
or people think. Like, okay, initially, like if you say, "Oh, Fidel killed JFK," everyone would be like, "Oh, no way, that happened." 0 out of 10. But like, I don't know. I could see maybe there's like some like links to it. Maybe like there is like historical motives as to why. And of course, Fidel was always like on the run from the CIA. Maybe he just got tired of it. I don't know. Maybe like. And as you said, Oswald, most damningly enough, Oswald had like links to the communist bloc. Didn't Oswald also visit Moscow at some point?
We'll get to that, but yeah.
All right.
But
Spoiler
to be
alert.
fair, like
Yeah.
why? What would come of that? Like, what would Fidel look? Place yourself in the shoes of Fidel Castro. You're Fidel Castro. You are on an island, like, right next to the United States. You just had a massive crisis that only just about saved, didn't blow off everything, and you would have been right in the middle of that massive explosion as Cuba, being Cuba, right? So as Fidel Castro, would you want to pour more oil on that fire that is most definitely going to explode into your face first?
Well, it didn't. It wouldn't have most definitely exploded in his face because I mean he got away with it essentially.
That's why I don't think he did it. Like I think if he did do it, then the U.S. then Cuba would have been in a different situation. Like I think.
Yeah, but like this was like a year after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Nobody wants to blow up the world just for
No,
Cuba.
exactly. So that's exactly why. I mean, they kind of did want to blow up the world for Cuba at that point. So.
Yeah, I mean, they were going down that possibility, but they realized.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of loose ends on this one, especially the fact that right. So you kill a president and you get away with it. Why would you stop? Why not try and kill all of them?
That was my thing. I never really got the logic because I don't know. I know Castro.
Because JFK was the one that was responsible for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I mean,
not responsible, but he was seen as like triumphing over the communists, right? So there was some personal
maybe, but
there.
still
I don't know. I just thought it's always more the CIA was his problem, not JFK. And also, I just felt like I don't feel like Castro's the guy who's like to take vengeance like that. I mean, they tried to kill him a few times, but I don't know. He just seems like a bit of a rational guy. I don't know why.
Milk a lot. Like he was kind of an odd fellow. So
I feel like he'd be a really cool. You know that question of like which like historical person would you like to have a dinner with? I feel like Castro should be up there a bit. But interesting guy.
Yeah, he lived a very interesting life.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's too Canadian of me to say, given our former prime minister was close family friends of them. But,
yeah, I mean, I hope for our sake he didn't do it, because then our prime minister would be the son of someone who killed an American president.
And now we shall declare war on Canada for historic grievances.
I mean, we did burn down the White House, so come on, we're pretty good at warring Americans.
Every time you can bring it up, you do.
It wasn't even us that burned down the White House. It was the British.
Yeah, it was. No, the British coming from Canada.
The British sent an expeditionary force from Britain.
From Canada. From
Britain.
From Canada.
No. It was
it was from Canada.
I'm pretty sure.
It was from Canada. They went from Canada with the help of some Canadians all the way down. And the Canadians helped
they
Britain
came
too.
from Canada, like as in they went through Canada.
But they were British.
That's like saying that.
There were Canadians in there.
We liberated ourselves because we let the Canadians come through our country.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that we burned down the White House.
No, how this is a question of citizenship test, right? Anyways, how much do we rate this out of 10?
I'll say maybe I think I'm a bit higher on this than you guys. Maybe like a 3 or a 4.
A 4 or a 5. I'd say this is not as plausible as the last one, but like a 4. Let's say 4.
Okay, let's talk about some more prominent Soviet nations, so to say, right? So, you guys didn't notice, actually. I'm surprised you didn't, because it was quite well known. So, for 3 years, Oswald actually lived in the Soviet Union. He actually, turned in his American passport and sought asylum he became a deserter, basically, to the Soviet Union after. And he lived there for 3 years. His wife was Soviet. She was a Russian citizen, and they eventually moved back to America. But as you can see, there was even a clipping in the New York Times, which says Lee Harvey Oswald, he said, I am awaiting a reply from the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet on my application for citizenship and have nothing to say meanwhile. So yeah, he was legitimately a Soviet sympathizer. He was a communist at one point. I mean, apparently turned into a Marxist.
This guy was only 24. Did quite a lot.
He was, yeah. And what have you done in your life?
He's your typical like campus.
Yeah,
like, yes.
I think he just moved to Russia and then realized, oh wait, actually this sucks.
Yeah. But I mean, he was like, apparently his Russian was so good, his wife didn't realize he wasn't natively Russian until like, she knew better. So
American-speaking Russian.
That's the rumor. Anyways, so he came back to America and he got involved in some, communist causes across the country. So like handing out those leaflets in New Orleans. And that trip he took to Mexico City, right? Guess which other embassy he visited that day?
The Soviet embassy?
He did. He visited the Russian embassy as well. And apparently, the CIA said on that day their cameras recording everybody in and out of those embassies were, quote unquote, not working. So there's no record from the CIA there. But apparently, according to some KGB files, allegedly, and this is a very heavy allegedly, he even met with Valery Kostikov, who was a KGB agent working in the 13th Department. Guess what the 13th Department was responsible for?
Assassinations?
It's assassinations and sabotage, to be correct. But,
oh my god.
That's rumor out there. So, however, and I say a big however, the Soviet Union was completely scared when they heard of JFK being shot by a potential communist sympathizer. Like Khrushchev blew a few of his head gaskets there because they were like, we have nothing to do with this. We do not know who. They officially told the Americans, we have no idea who Oswald is. We didn't even know he was in the country apparently, or he ever was in Russia. They even turned in a list of potential Russian agents or sympathizers and their locations of alibis during the time of JFK assassination.
Oh my god.
So these Russians were like, our hands are clean. Please do not come near us. And there's this amazing quote from a letter from J. Edgar Hoover to a White House person himself. There's one if you want to read this quote.
According to our source, officials of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believe that there was some well-organized conspiracy on the part of the ultra-right in the United States to effect a coup. They seemed convinced that the assassination was not the deed of one man, but that it arose out of a carefully planned campaign in which several people played a part.
Yeah.
In other news, they had common sense.
So they were conspiracy theorists.
Well, they were completely taken aback by this file records, and they were completely panicking because they thought missiles were coming to them any second because of this.
Makes sense.
Which is kind of hilarious.
I would be scared too at that point.
Yeah, I don't think it's that
pretty
crazy
sure
to be
that.
scared.
But I could see, even if they were panicking, I could see some rogue KGB guy being really enthusiastic in recruiting new sympathizers and being like, you get a rifle, you get a few $100, you go to a president. And eventually one of those would work out.
At that time, I guess.
So what do we think of our Soviet connections here?
So you're saying the USSR had something to do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to the last Cuba section, I think maybe they work together because they're both socialist brothers. Working together is kind of like in their goal. I don't know. That quote is kind of revealing if it's accurate, though.
Mm-hmm. It came from a Hoover memo. So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one, like. Khrushchev and Castro did have reason to dislike JFK.
Yeah,
since he clapped them and he was clapped them during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But yeah, I think this is similar to the Cuban one. I think if anything, if they did do it, they must have worked together. I think maybe so I'll just give the same rating 3 or 4 out of 10.
I mean, he did visit both embassies. So what about you, Han? Any changes in mindset here?
Same, really. I still don't think it's a communist plot, because if it was a communist plot, I don't know, it just doesn't, the motive wouldn't be there, because killing a president like that is just such a fucking... it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the US either. It makes sense in an authoritarian country to kill the head, because if Castro, the dictator of a country like that, drops dead, then yes, you'd get a power vacuum and it'd be stuff would happen. But the US doesn't really have that kind of stuff, because it's got a lot more of a in a democracy, it's much less of a cult of personality thing. So I don't know.
And if anything, I would argue LBJ was a worse president for them than
It was.
JFK.
It was absolutely. He was much more of a hawk. He was much
Yeah.
more of a
Yep.
hawk. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense from a geopolitical standpoint, and I don't think the communists would be that stupid to like blow out such a big figure and risk all out nuclear war.
So, what's your rating?
I'd still say like a 4. It's more plausible than what was it again? Than LBJ. Yeah, it's absolutely more plausible than LBJ, but less plausible than Mob.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've talked a bit about, foreign intelligence agencies. I think it's a bit time to shift to domestic intelligence agencies.
This is where it's exciting.
With the CIA.
There you go.
Yeah. So the man beside JFK in the top picture, the, very, I guess, I don't know what to describe him as, elderly looking statesman. His name was Alan Davis. He was the head of the CIA for quite some time. And JFK and him did not get along well for a few reasons. And I'm going to go into some JFK CIA history here. So first off, the Bay of Pigs invasion. Does any of you want to give a quick 20-second synopsis of what happened there?
I mean, there's not really much of a synopsis. The Americans, I believe they tried to recruit some of like the previous Cuban regime guys, right?
Yeah.
And then they just landed in Cuba and they got wrecked within like 5 minutes. That's pretty much what happened.
Yes. But what you're missing out here, Kevin, is that it wasn't Americans. JFK had no knowledge of the Bay of Pigs. It was entirely a CIA operation where they took those Contras, they trained them, they said America's on your side, and Alan Davis, the head of the CIA at the time, his rationale was, if we strike first with a force, the JFK will have no choice but to also strike Cuba, and he thought that was in the country's best interest at the time. JFK, however, was extraordinarily pissed at this. He let all the forces be wiped out, or, was wiped out as much as they could be, took no action, and, publicly he admitted, yeah, Bay of Pigs is ours, but internally he was furious at Davis about this kind of stuff happening. Because, it's an invasion on a different nation, which he had no idea of whatsoever. He just woke up one day to find out, yeah, we attacked Cuba.
Yeah, that's a big hot potato to just get dropped into your lap.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised. Like, did the CIA director keep his job after that? Because that seems like something to be.
Well, I'll get to that in a second. But right after the Bay of Pigs, what was the next crisis that happened?
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Exactly. And as we all know, Cuba got some missiles for a nice little gift from Khrushchev, so to say. And they weren't too happy about that. Nobody was.
Yep.
However, the CIA wasn't helping tensions. So they did two things, which was really stupid. So have you heard their U-2 spy plane program?
Oh, they flew a U-2 over the freaking...
Soviet Union. Yeah. That's, yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. They shot it down, right? That was the height
Yes.
of the...
Yes. And Kennedy explicitly told them not to do stuff like this, especially don't fly your U-2s over the Soviet Union. Once they did it, and apparently U-2 looks pretty much like a bomber too, so pretty stupid move. So it's very lucky nothing exploded there. Moreover, it turns out that the CIA didn't entirely stop funding their guerrillas in Cuba, and they were still allowing these guerrillas to allow mini attacks on Cuba during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
It's just, oh my God, these guys, man, what a bunch of nut jobs.
Yeah. And JFK thought the same thing. So once the Cuban tensions had kind of died down, Alan Davis and the other two top guys in the CIA both got fired, and JFK was openly talking about dismantling the entire CIA. Because if an organization like that tries to cause World War III 3 different times within less than a year, I would be looking at dismantling them as well.
That sounds like a liability.
So I'm going to pause here and shift towards a different little side tangent before continuing on here, because there's still more to say about the CIA. But as I've been saying, there's still more to know about Oswald, which you might not know. So, the cheery guy on the left, who do you think he is?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
So, he was born an orphan in the U.S. As soon as he was of age, he signed up to become a U.S. Marine. And he was accepted. He became a Marine. He got stationed at Sui Air Base in Japan. Do you know why that air base is important?
Japanese air? Is that the one on Okinawa?
Not sure, but the CIA had a lot of operations there. They actually flew their U-2 spy plane program out of that airbase.
Whoa.
And he was a radio controller for like that stuff at the time. And in his spare time, he started learning Russian, which was not observed by his fellow people.
Interesting.
So eventually, at I think age 21 or so, he had enough. He got an honorable discharge for personal reasons. He claimed his mother was sick. This was not really the case. And he immediately abdicated, or immediately defected to the USSR. He took a plane there and was like, I'm defecting.
Oh, wow.
Many suspect that since that was a CIA airbase, this guy was an orphan. Nothing going for him. Nothing really, going on there. He knows Russian very well. Why not defect him, become a secret agent in Russia for a few years, reporting back? And voila, you have a perfect secret Russian agent, as the CIA would do during that time quite often to defect people to get them in Russia.
God, this seems quite convoluted. And
Yes.
then what? The CIA gets him to assassinate the president and make it look like the communists did it just to start World War III?
I mean, it is quite suspicious how he even got back to America, because he took his wife back to America when he returned back to America, which is quite unprecedented at the time. He had to get special approval from a ton of people to take his Russian citizen wife back to
just
America.
the fact that he defected and was allowed to go back to the US just kind of
Yes.
This was 1960 60 something. This was again, this wasn't super long after the Red Scare. This is the height of the Cold War. Like the whole idea that there's communists behind every fucking bush is very ingrained in the American spirit at that time. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty sus.
The CIA connections don't stop here, though. So, like, remember how he was handing out pamphlets in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, on that pamphlets, he had a nice address of where they should meet up, That address was actually the apartment of a CIA agent at the time, who could not provide a good reason why that address was there. Pretty suspicious. He also traveled, when he traveled to Mexico City, he traveled with a buddy of his, a William George Grant or something like that. My handwriting is terrible, my apologies. He was actually an undercover CIA agent who said it was just a huge coincidence they happened to travel to Mexico City together.
Seems like a very huge coincidence.
Yes. So, let's get back to the CIA time arc, because now it intersects. So, potentially, my man Oswald is a CIA agent. Maybe not. Maybe he is. So there's the one theory. So theory one is that the CIA had this guy, and they're like, he has a Russian past. We can frame the Soviets a bit by letting him assassinate the president, and it'll help us. It'll stop us from being, completely obliterated, get us back into power, etc. That's theory one. Theory two involves the FBI. So do you know the guerrilla units within Cuba? Going back to that, right?
Yep.
So when they were in Cuba, one of the orders of the Cuban Missile Crisis, or one of the results of it, was that Khrushchev specifically asked for any American operations or funded operations in Cuba against the Cuban regime to be completely destroyed or broken down. Yep. Kennedy agreed to this. But how did he enforce this? Because you can't trust the CIA to do it.
Oh, you got the FBI to...
Yeah, he got his buddy, J. Edgar Hoover, to, jump in there. And the FBI actually cleaned up all, the anti-Castro cells within Cuba for them. However, the question now is, how did the FBI do this? Because they don't have many assets, so to say, who were, could cover as an FBI agent, go in there. So there is one memo Hoover wrote in 1961, which noted a suspicious use of and this is the official memo, you can search it up, but the use of Lee Harvey Oswald's credentials in a suspicious manner while the Oswald person wasn't in the country. He himself wrote that memo a few years before anything happened. And as we noticed before, he was an FBI informant or on the FBI list. So the theory is, and some people say they've seen Oswald within Cuba during the times, and we know he's a Cuban sympathizer or allegedly made part of his cover. So some think he was Hoover's man on the ground there. He was the top guy from Hoover to kind of make sure the Cubans were wrapping up their operation and stuff like that. So when the CIA assassinated JFK, not only did Hoover wake up with the president assassinated, his top agent was framed for the job as well.
Oh, that is a lot of
Okay, I will say it's really, really creepy how J. Edgar Hoover was writing personally about the guy who shot JFK 2 years before he shot JFK. Like, I think this just dispels the notion that it was like
Yeah.
some random dude who got angry, because like there's no way that's just way too big
He's
of a
got he's
coincidence.
got like
Yeah.
the guy's got too much going for him. The fact that he like went to Russia, went back, speaks perfect Russian. Like like the way I thought it was is he was just like a random dude working at a shop, like a clerk. But this guy's got a whole fucking backstory. Like this is not like how many just walk into the U.S. and how many Americans do you think speak fluent Russian and lived in the Soviet Union at age 25? That is
and had memos written about them by the director of the FBI
yeah,
2 years
that's
before
all
the
right.
shooting.
That's very sus. That's very sus.
Yeah. And there's a lot of offshoot theories involving George Bush as an FBI, CIA agent at the time who was orchestrating this plot. They're a bit convoluted. There is some evidence here and there for it. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it does seem feasible that the CIA could pull off an operation like this. And as we noticed, a lot of logistical details of like the Kennedy's convoy at the time, like it was driving really slowly, it really set up well. The guys behind the fence apparently flashed badges, could have easily been CIA agents. Some people claim there were CIA assassins involved. Some have claimed responsibility, but you know, as any retired CIA assassin will tell you, they're looking for a quick buck. But yeah. Yeah. Before we wrap up the CIA plot, I wanted to mention this guy because I wanted to lump him in somewhere because it's a really fun tangent before we rate. Or should we rate it first? Let's rate it first. So what do we think of the CIA potential collusion?
Man, I'll be honest, this seems really, really plausible. Like, everything's there. The motive's there. The means of operations are there. Like, I'm sure the CIA could have, like, done this. Like, they're the most powerful intelligence agency in the world. Like, they could definitely get away with stuff like this.
Alan Davis, remember Alan Davis, the fired head at CIA? He actually served on the Warren Committee as one of the top guys.
That seems like a gigantic conflict of interest, but okay.
Honestly, just the fact that this is what the problem was with foreign collusion is. I feel like this would not be tactical from a foreign perspective, but from a domestic perspective, it makes all of the sense. Because if Kennedy was like increasingly annoyed with the CIA and wanted to get rid of the power that the CIA was wielding, it makes a lot of sense for them to just off him and have like a deal ready with LBJ to kind of retain the status quo. That makes a lot of sense.
Or even work with the mafia to get it done.
The one problem I have with this is that like this is like an entire agency of people, right?
Yeah.
Like usually if a secret is passed along like so many people, it tends to not stay a secret for very long.
I mean, was it a secret?
I guess maybe not. Yeah, but then like wouldn't there be more conclusive links linking the CIA? Well, maybe not if the powers that be don't decide to.
I mean, Harvey Oswald was killed, right? There's many theories that there is an offshoot theory that the officer that Oswald shot, remember Tippit, right? He was actually a guy behind the fence, who was also the CIA assassin, and then they shot him too to clear that up too as well.
To be fair, the theory that if a conspiracy is held by too many people, then it's eventually going to fail. I agree with that. However, this is the CIA. Like the same can be said for the KGB.
The caveat is that
same can be said for the KGB or MI5 or anything. It's just these agencies are built to keep this stuff inside. These things are really fucking tight. So yes, you could have a whistleblower, but there's so much shit that these agencies did that we don't know of. I'm absolutely 100% sure of that.
And also, like this after JFK, I don't think you ever really hear any presidents like going against the CIA and talking about disbanding it, right? Maybe every other president was just cowed into submission by the CIA just doing this.
Ford was a CIA director, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
my point is that no president after JFK has ever really talked about disbanding.
No. This is literally like they never really got a threat to their position in that sense. I think not such a big open threat. So Yeah, no, I think this.
And they've done shady stuff too
What,
since
CIA?
then. So
It actually makes a lot of like the shady stuff make more sense. Like all those like random deaths. Like the CIA is like probably an expert at like killing people.
or they could have like done 50-50 of the mob, because the mob and CIA had collaboration in that time. It was
Yeah.
documented, and they had common interest in, first off, like getting Cuba out of there. I mean, the mob ran guns to those anti-Castro people. The CIA had to have known about that. They had a common interest in Cuba. I mean, put like the mob had Ruby. The CIA was like, yo, shoot this guy.
Yeah, well,
I mean, okay, are there any examples of like an intelligence agency murdering their own head of state before? I guess there. I'm sure there have
a
been.
lot of like less developed countries. So I guess like, I mean, even look at Egypt, right? I mean, no, it was the army
Yeah.
who like disposed the government there, but
Yeah, so I guess there is like precedent and
this,
stuff like
yeah,
that
and
happening
also,
before.
it's a lot of military. There's a lot of like military coups and stuff that's pretty common in regimes.
yeah, no,
Yeah, but those involve like the actual military. Like I'm talking about like the intelligence agency.
well, to be fair, I don't think it doesn't need to be a coup. It doesn't have to be a full coup. Like it could just be,
Yeah.
like I said, a retention of the status quo, in that they just felt that Kennedy was too much of a threat, so they took out Kennedy, and then kind of let things run their course. Because that's the thing. They
Yeah.
don't. They don't. You don't need a. You don't want a coup in a democratic country, of course, because that's gonna.
Yeah.
Like, that's never gonna work. Could you imagine a full military coup in the U.S.? It's not happening.
Yeah, could you imagine if a bunch of rowdy people just showed up at the Capitol and tried to stop the reading of the
Yeah,
electoral
that'd be
votes? That'd be
crazy.
crazy. Egged on by the former president. Oh man, that would
Nah,
be
but I mean that would never happen, right?
Yeah. Nah. So I guess the hard question here is, what do we rate this?
Oh,
I'm gonna say some crazy shit. Maybe like a 9, or I feel like this is more likely than the official explanation. Because the official explanation makes no sense now. Lee Harvey Oswald was most definitely not just some random nobody that decided to kill.
I tried to build that up a bit, because I didn't know you knew nothing about his Soviet ties beforehand. So I'm glad I changed your mind a little there. But
Yeah, I would say this is like maybe like an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
I'd give it an. I think I'd give it an 8 as well. I think just it makes a lot of sense, and it just really explains everything quite well. I mean, like conspiracy theories usually do that. They explain all the disparate things, and I'm pretty sure that it doesn't explain all like those random deaths around, because that is the kind of conspiracy theory bullshit that usually dispowers the theory. It's like, oh yeah, they kill all these people too just to get rid of the loose ends. Now, a lot of those people probably died for whatever reason they did. Like,
or just scare into submission. Like if they kill the president, they can kill you.
obviously, like you don't
Like,
want to
people
fuck with the
don't
CIA.
Yeah.
Do you want to fuck with
Yeah.
the CIA? I don't want to
Yeah,
fuck
exactly.
with the CIA. So
Should we put this podcast out now?
So yeah, we're gonna get
just,
knocks on the door. at
Just
any moment.
yes, we're still on good terms, right? CIA. Just checking, right? Right.
Yeah. I mean,
I should probably call my Secret Service.
okay. I guess as a funner note, just to break up, because this is pretty serious. I have a few more like looser theories going around. I mean, I want to be a bit more comprehensive. I mean, the CIA was the big one, but here's a little, spot what's weird in this picture. So this is like an amalgamation of a bunch of like, shots of like the Zapruder film, right? So
What's weird?
yeah, just see if something's out of normal.
I mean, there's those like two guys just standing on the grass instead of on the sidewalk.
That's not it. They're just, grass standards.
There's dudes. Maybe I'm just really unobservant. I don't really see anything else that's super weird.
Anything that seems out of characteristic for the
Oh, there's
guys
like
inside.
this guy with an umbrella.
That is odd. Well, is it?
And
Well, I mean, maybe
he-
it was just a sunny day.
with an umbrella. So this
Yeah, I can
guy's
use the umbrella to block.
this
out the sun. I
guy-
don't think it's that weird.
This guy is known as the Umbrella Man. He was on official pictures as well. What is cool about him is apparently, if you look at the film or some film or whatever, he opens the umbrella only as JFK is passing by him, and
Really?
then closes it again.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's quite suspicious.
And the way he just stands there, makes no eye contact, while he's just very solemn, as you would say. Moreover, if you look at the photo in the top right, on top right, it's right after assassination, and in the little corner, there's two people sitting on the curb, a guy in a white and a guy in a black. The guy in the black is the Umbrella Man. After the shooting, he just casually sits down and watches the commotion. No strong reactions from him.
Jeez.
So what people theorize is that this Umbrella Man, as he's called, he is either, giving a mark, as in like opening the umbrella, as in shoot now, he's in place, or he's using an umbrella gun, which is an invented CIA weapon, which shoots out a dart to shoot people.
I mean, is that consistent with like the direction the bullet travels from?
I've never used an umbrella gun, so I think we'll have to have on
well,
here.
What way is the car going?
No, didn't we have this like whole segment earlier about like from which direction the bullet was shot? Is this where the umbrella guy is standing?
This would, if he, let's say he shot like a round, it would hit him in the front, right, and then like the head snap back. So I guess it could work because he's standing like by the.
To be fair, that is the right angle, but the thing is, the only problem I have with it is, so he puts up the umbrella before the shot.
Yeah, he just opens it, kind of like this is like shots of the film.
Wait,
right?
but
So
how would the umbrella gun even work? Like
know.
is the bullet from the umbrella gun firing out of like the side? Because he's not like holding it. He's not holding the umbrella top towards JFK, right? Like he's holding it.
I believe they say it could have worked like that. I'm no expert on umbrella guns, but the CIA, there was an engineer of the CIA who said he developed a weapon like that. Like it's on file.
That's a cool weapon.
So I hear it. Generally, the way it would work is that like the bullet comes out of the top. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, the bullet should come out of the top, right? It shouldn't come out of like the side.
If it comes out of the side, you don't have a barrel. There's no barrel.
Yeah, exactly. So
no. They say when you open an umbrella, those metal rods that hold the umbrella in place. Like one of those could have been like a shooting turret.
All right, so I'm gonna like call that one horribly implausible because do you know how fucking hard it would be to aim that? And also, you got recoil. Like that umbrella's gonna go.
Yeah, like he should be holding his umbrella in like a way more different and obvious way.
I think if he's involved, he's probably like a mark man. Like he's in place.
He could be the signal guy. I could buy that, especially if he like just opens his umbrella. Like, if he was holding the umbrella the whole time. Then
I think the umbrella gun theory is too James Bond. It's too much James Bond. It's really cool, but yeah.
There's actually an official explanation for this.
Oh, it was sunny.
Really?
Yeah.
He was just a random guy.
It's not because it was sunny. So during the testimonies, or I think during the Warren Commission, this guy actually allegedly came out. His name was Louis Stephen Witt. He brought his umbrella with him to Congress, which is kind of funny. He's like, this is totally the umbrella. He said that the reason he had this umbrella was because it was a protest move. So his father, he was very infuriated at JFK's father, Joseph Smith, because he was a big supporter of appeasement during World War II in the 1940s. And so he had the umbrella as a tribute to Wilt Chamberlain, so the previous UK Prime Minister, because the umbrella was like his sign. So his thing was, as the president passes me, I'm going to throw open my umbrella so the president can see that I'm not happy with his family's appeasement policies.
Okay, I mean, like that's kind of weird, but political protests are kind of weird. I actually don't think that's that weird for a political protest.
What do you think, Connor?
Comparing his father to Neville Chamberlain.
I think it's a pretty fucking far-fetched theory because like is there a lot of people that actually know that is a thing, like Neville Chamberlain umbrella?
Yeah. No,
I mean, maybe, Connor. I guess.
Apparently, what I found the most far-fetched is he claimed that because he opened the umbrella as the thing passed, he didn't actually see JFK get shot, which is why he was so calm afterwards. That's what he said in Congress.
He could see him get... the umbrella doesn't block his field of view.
That's what he said. I'm just,
Yeah, but also, I mean, you don't have to see the guy get shot to see everyone freak the fuck out. Like, you just...
He's like, my protest
Yes,
was effective.
aha! Look at Jack.
Wow,
Look
I
at
really
Jackie
got
Kennedy. She's crawling out of the car. Look at JFK. His mind is totally blown.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
One final thing, which I thought would be hilarious. There's a good chance that JFK's last thoughts in his head was like, what's that idiot doing there with his umbrella?
Yeah.
Probably. He probably didn't even notice him, to be fair.
Yeah, but if he did. Okay, so I'm not really going to rate that. It's just a cool little tidbit. But here's another theory for you. This one involves the Secret Service. Did you know they're actually part of the Treasury Department? Fun.
Really?
Yeah, fun side.
That's
side fact.
somewhat hilarious.
Yeah. Anyways, because keeping the president alive is a treasury priority. But how many Secret Service agents do you think there were in 1963-ish?
Well,
Are we talking like full on James Bond level
Full-on.
secret like agents?
I mean, just people working in the Secret
People
Service.
working in the Secret
agents,
Service gotta be like, at least 1,000, I say. Yeah.
Really? Like, did they even institute like the Secret Service protection for presidents after their term of office was done at this point?
I'm not sure. I can tell you today there are over 3,400 Secret Service agents.
Maybe 1,000. Maybe 1,000. I can see that.
Anyways, the official number, there were 200 Secret Service agents at the time.
Wow.
That's pretty low.
And for this open casket, not open casket, but open top limo route, he was only assigned 34 agents for his trip to Texas. And out of this 34, they had to cover this huge limo route. They had to cover 20,000 windows. They didn't cover any of them, by the way, because they thought it was too much. And, just keep the president safe. And allegedly the night before, a bunch of them were out drinking at Jack Ruby's place. So,
Oh my God.
partying to 2 a.m. So imagine you're here midday in the Texas sun at like a 10-kilometer-an-hour parade through the middle of Texas, sloggily there. And then all of a sudden, in front of you, there's a commotion. And you see the agent in the back of the seat with holding a gun, right?
Yep.
His name is George Hickey. I know, nice agent, nice guy. He's holding an AR-15 rifle, a machine gun. It was one of the first times that the Secret Service ever used them. And apparently he was in the car right behind the president. So let's say a few shots rang out. You're right there. And some people saw him stumble a bit.
Oh no.
And many people think that because of the gun smoke and because of, the bullets not making sense, his finger slipped on the trigger and accidentally he landed a very beautiful headshot on the president of the United States.
That's so lame. That's such a lame explanation. So, like, in the end, some guy just fat fingered his trigger and shot the president of the U.S. instead of all these cool conspiracy theories about the CIA and Fidel and stuff. Boo! I don't like
this
one
one's
at all.
lame. This is stupid.
Lame. Next.
I thought this was pretty cool because it does make sense why would it cover it up so vehemently.
Why?
And
Why?
there's so much
Why would
conspiracy.
Why would they cover this up? They would just say, "Oh, the Secret Service
fucking
guy's an
idiot.
idiot."
Do you know how embarrassing that'd be for the Secret Service to admit they shot the guy?
Okay, yeah, but who
that
cares? It's embarrassing for the Secret Service that the president was assassinated.
Oh
on
no,
the
the
watch
president was
anyways.
assassinated. Let's maybe cause World War III.
Anyways, the AR-15 right after this this foray, it was never used by the Secret Service again. So suspicious.
Well,
And George Hickey has been plagued by people claiming he killed the president for quite some time and was not happy
no, I
about
can
it.
imagine.
I can imagine that. It's bad enough that the president died on your watch. It's even worse than when people accuse you of killing
exactly
him.
the problem with conspiracy theories, that they believe their shit so hard, and then they go up to people they think were involved with something, and they start accusing them of it.
This isn't even like a fun conspiracy theory. This is like the lame brother version
sad
of the CIA.
one. This is just a
conspiracy
sad theory. Just
Yeah.
proves
Boo.
all
Okay.
I don't like this.
Why do we rate this?
one.
Why do we rate this?
I don't want to believe. 0.
0.
Minus
Really?
1.
Oh, I like.
Okay, fine. Like I'll concede that it's possible, but I just don't understand why there'd be such a huge cover up if it was just one stupid
I could
hungover
believe
Secret
it.
Service agent.
Honestly,
They would not go to bat over for a Secret Service agent. They would just say, "Oh, a Secret Service agent killed our president." I think. Honestly.
I think it was just some organization screwing up and then just covering it up poorly. But,
All right, fine. Maybe I'll give it like a 2. I'll give it like a 2. But it's very
Okay.
lame if it's true.
okay. Does any of you have a good JFK impression? We're gonna hear from the man himself.
We pledge to go to the moon,
pledge.
not because
That
it's
counts,
easy,
Kevin.
but because it's
do you want to do
hard.
it? Go ahead.
There you go, Kevin. You qualify.
There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this
good.
plot. Well, that was okay,
7
I
days
guess.
before he was assassinated. Suspicious quote, wouldn't you say?
But what is this plot? Like, what would he even be referring to?
Secret societies is what they say.
Oh,
I've
the
just left it.
Illuminati.
Maybe you know, Skull and
I don't know.
Bones.
Any
don't
like
know.
secret society thing.
Pretty
I'm like,
sure this, like, he might have. Maybe he was referring to the mob.
Maybe. Interesting.
yeah, but how would the mob enslave every
Well,
man? woman,
I
and
feel
child?
like the enslaved thing is also just, but like the mob rules. If the mob rules the country, then everyone's fucked. It's basically what I take from this. But
Anyways, there's this whole bunch of side offshoot of a bunch of secret societies playing a huge role, which I mean are very convoluted, often involve George Bush and other stuff.
Yeah,
it was
and
Bill
George
Gates.
Soros.
It was Bill Gates. Bill Gates invented a time machine and shot JFK.
Yeah, there are other people who claim there's a lot of Masonic symbolism around his death, which I feel like you could find Masonic symbolism in everything.
That reminds.
Yeah, I know. The thing with those is that they're just like so general that like anything could plausibly be.
Yeah, this kind of.
It's sort of like astrology.
This kind of reminds me of the whole with the QAnon thing with the Pizzagate one. Is that so? Apparently, there's a child molestation, like a child prostitution ring. Oh, look, they've got some stars and moons on the image, so they gotta be Satanists too, because it's like a moon is a symbol of Satan. Yeah. Like, well, it had a picture. I saw a goat walk by there one time. Must be Satan. That's how.
I mean, speaking of Satanists, we'll move on to our next theory. And remember how I told you that Coca-Cola was important? Have you remembered that?
The Coca-Cola that he bought randomly after he killed the president.
Yes, the sweet taste of Coca-Cola.
I'd like a Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola Classic, nothing beats it.
You're working.
Exactly.
It's working. The marketing.
Yeah, maybe Coca-Cola killed JFK.
Well, that's closer to the mark.
Really?
Well,
Damn.
This is actually serious? Joking.
There is a zany offshoot that
oh no.
And this is not too well developed, but they claim that Oswald had some kind of mental impairment stemming from a crippling addiction to refined sugar, which is why right after assassination he grabbed an ice cold Coke and had me sipping it.
Was he diabetic to a point that like he?
No, he was addicted to sugar.
Refined sugar, come on.
I mean, if he was addicted to refined sugar, I would assume that he would be a lot fatter than he is.
Maybe he did a lot of running.
Hey, he was a Marine. Come on.
Yeah,
50,
he
50
just
push-ups a day.
Yeah, maybe.
So what do we rate the Coca-Cola theory here?
Is this even a theory? What is this theory that he's addicted to sugar?
Yeah.
And that his like sugar compulsions caused him to shoot the president?
Yes.
If I could give a negative score,
do you guys know that one Snickers advert where like the guy is being really annoying? They're like, "Oh, you turn into a right bitch when you're hungry" or something. It's kind of like that, but like this guy shoots the president. It's like, come on, man, you turn into a right fucking presidential assassin when you're thirsty. Have a Coke. This sounds like this is the most cursed Coke advert ever.
I know, actually. Coke would definitely not want to be associated with this.
I mean, we gave it a negative
Coke,
score.
like Lee Harvey Oswald. Literally negative 10 out of 10.
And you, Johan.
Yeah,
Has the refreshing taste of Coke never compelled you to do some pretty crazy things in your free time?
No, it hasn't. I'm not going to dignify this with a score. It doesn't rate in the scale. It doesn't fit in the scale.
Coke killed JFK.
Like that would make sense if you meant cocaine, as in drug trafficking, but not Coca-Cola.
Hey, you find some cool things on the internet is all I'll say.
Yeah, maybe Pepsi was framing Coca-Cola. You never know.
Maybe it was a sting operation. Maybe Maybe,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe Oswald was actually working for Pepsi the whole time.
Oh my god.
Anyways, this is the last serious conspiracy. I have a side note, which I don't know.
Was
We've
this
been
the
going for
last
quite a while,
serious
so-
conspiracy? This wasn't serious. This is not serious.
I would not classify this as a serious conspiracy.
Figure of speech. So, I guess, to wrap it all up, what do we think of the JFK assassination? Or conspiracy, so to say? And I know I'm just going to give you guys the floor for a few minutes. Say your thoughts, say your feelings. How do you think this went? What did you change?
All right. Well, I mean, I always thought maybe like there was a strong possibility that like it was just an Occam's razor situation where like Mr. Oswald was just like some random pissed off guy who like just decided to kill the president on a whim. It's like, I mean, that does happen, but like, I don't know. The more and more we talked about this, the less normal Mr. Oswald seemed to be, and like, and the less the official Warren Commission explanation made any sense. Like, it just seems like really, really implausible to me that like Oswald could be like connected to like so many important people and then just randomly decide to kill the president by himself. And like the fact that the officials like kind of just like try to sweep everything under the rug, like just I don't know. I feel like there actually are more like conspiracy theories on this that are actually more plausible than the official explanation, which is pretty rare, which like doesn't seem to happen for like a lot of them. Like a lot of conspiracy theories, they're like stupid, right? They're easily like disproven. But this one, I don't know, there seems to be a bit more meat behind this.
Yeah. Or Coca-Cola behind it, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So I guess just to ask you finally, what do you think happened? If I had to force you, you know, gun to your head, Coca-Cola in hand.
If you had to force me to say, I think the CIA/mobster theory holds a lot of weight. Like, I would not be surprised if the CIA was behind this. This like kind of has their fingerprints all over it. But then, of course, we'll never know because like the CIA won't admit it. And now it's like 60 years after the assassination. It's like kind of like faded from public memory.
Yeah. What do you think, Han? Because I know this is a big one we wanted to get to. And I mean, 15th episode celebration. Did this one disappoint?
No, I mean, it's the longest one we ever did by quite a lot, I think. I'm talking a bit more quietly for my housemate, by the way, because it's late. So basically, I think, well, it's all, if you had if I had one question to like know any kind of trivia thing, this wouldn't be low on my list. Let's just say, like, this is a very curious case, and there's a lot of questions there, and it's very mysterious, and it's just frustrating that we're probably never going to know it. So I guess I agree in that there's just a lot of smoke there, which makes it really sketchy. And I don't know, the CIA theory holds a lot of water for me, I think.
I mean, personally, I looked into this a lot, and I mean, there's a lot of weird things happening. The one thing is I just have a hard time believing a government agency would actually just conspire to kill a president. I think, I mean, rationalistically speaking, I know I'm normally more the crazier conspiracy one, I suppose, here. But I just feel like it's a bit more plausible that there was just a random guy who was, you know, radicalized in a certain way. Some government, like foreign government agencies, were a bit too, you know, promoting him to go do something, and some agencies just screwed up on the ground. Because screw-ups happen. I'd be maybe leaning that way, but I think it's a really convincing case you can paint the other direction as well. It's just something that's, yeah, it's very ingrained in American mindset. A lot of people,
like, government agencies have like gone, like, maybe not the intelligence agencies, but like, yeah, like government agencies in general definitely have gone against their head of state. Like,
the CIA has literally done this during Kennedy's reign.
True. Yes, I think that's a great point to mention. Now you think I think about it, they literally played a nuclear
exactly.
war. So.
Like
yeah,
there was
maybe
a lot of...
I've honestly been. just seeing how receptive YouTube were to it was convincing me more than my own research. So I don't know what that says about conspiracies, but
Did you ever heard of the cock-up theory of history? The cock-up
Sorry?
theory of history. It's basically the anti-conspiracy theory in that, like, yes, you can explain it with a conspiracy with motives behind it, but it could also just be a cock-up, like somebody fucked up somewhere, and then this happened.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's an interesting note to start wrapping stuff up on today, because I think it's like 2 hours of content for our faithful listeners.
More than 2 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 nearly.
Yeah. So I guess I know it's getting late. Like Han and I were both past midnight by quite a bit. So
Yep.
Really? Oh, okay.
But Kevin, you still have a full day ahead of you, I suppose. But
yeah,
thanks.
I mean, it's like 6:30 over
Crazy.
here. The light's still out. I'm gonna go for a walk later.
No, but anyways, thanks so much for coming on. I think we've had a great exploration of this topic, so I hope we've made you somewhat more conspiratorial. And yeah.
Don't trust the CIA, guys.
Would you ever?
I would not.
Yeah. As for next episode, I don't know. We still have to talk on about when we'll do the next one, but I have more time coming up, so maybe we'll do another 1 or 2 in the near future. And I'm hoping this 2-hour one is enough to satiate some of your needs. So
Let's hope so. Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Yeah, but I guess then, until next time, everybody. Yeah.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
See you guys later.
See you guys.